paying customers, I mean people that have been arrested, that it's supposed to be a public proceeding, but they got so many people that have been charged that if you don't have an information against you or a ticket against you, you won't even get a seat. And that's how many people are in here. But you're going to see this, that the court hasn't even been in session 15 minutes and they're up over $40,000 in fines. I was amazed to find guys who were DUI, all right, that they got in wrecks, they hurt people. No jail time, a $5,000 fine, 5 years probation, with one of the terms of probation at the end of 5 years is that you've paid the $5,000 fine. All right. So if you violate your probation, then they can throw you in jail for the full jail sentence. So what they're doing, they're using the jail sentence over here as a hammer, holding it over your head, saying, you better pay this fine, because if you don't pay the fine, we're going to throw you in jail. See, they don't want to throw you in jail for DUI. They want you to be paying fines. That's the name of the game with DUI.
Funny.
You know, it was like a conversation I had with a guy. I was waiting for a table at a restaurant, and I was talking to this guy, and I told him, I said, I personally don't agree with the DUI laws. And he looked at me like I was his best friend. You know, he personally had 3 or 4 DUIs. Every time he got in an accident or people that were hurt, he hadn't gone to jail yet. And he had one fine of $5,000. The next time he got $7,000, and the fines are just going up. And he's, you know, working, goes down to his probation officer, and he's making all his little payments.
Right.
And he knows he can drive as drunk as he wants. He's just going to have to keep getting these fines that he has to pay. And he thought I was his best friend when I said I disagree with the DUI. And I said the real issue should be, if you are incapable of controlling yourself, I don't care if you haven't had any beers, right? And you drive in an irresponsible manner and you hurt someone, right? Especially you kill someone, you should be in the hot seat. Well, he looked at me like I was the worst thing in the world.
Right.
And he said, if it was that way, I would go to 7-Eleven and buy a case of beer and go home and drink it. And I'm like, imagine that. Personal accountability.
Sure.
If you'd
That's
have
what the Bible's full of.
Exactly.
Personal accountability.
But see, if people were personally accountable, they couldn't make all this money through this corrupt court system.
Yeah, that's it. Well, good. Well, John, we sure appreciate your time, and there's a million other rabbit trails I'd like to go down. I've got quite a list here in front of me. I don't want Christians who haven't discovered their liberty to get mad at me because I have.
Right.
And that's what happens. It's really sad.
Yeah, and all I can say is when you meet someone who has discovered what's going on, there's a whole another world out there that you may not have stumbled upon. And so if somebody's out there driving without a driver's license, it may be sinful for you at that point to get rid of your driver's license, because if you honestly believe that that God had ordained that government and that a driver's license was a valid exercise of legislative authority, then I think you need to have that driver's license. But if you if you personally went and you saw your deacons at your church, you went to pick up your hat you forgot on a Monday morning, and you saw the deacons sitting there laughing in the back room, and they were taking all the money that came in and they were giving it to the Church of Satan, saying, those dumb Christians. What would you do? Would you say, well, God put those elders in there, and I just have to follow them, and I gave it in good faith, so, God's going to bless me. Well, once you had knowledge of the corruption that was going on there, you need to, tell the other people in the church what the deacons are doing with your money, and now if next Sunday you didn't tell everyone, you come in and you continue giving that money, knowing that it's being used for satanic purposes, I don't believe God would bless that offering at that point in time.
At that point, you're liable.
So, if people have discovered exactly what the alleged government has done to us, and they are exercising their liberties, and they are doing so at a great risk of being thrown in jail and things like that, I would not be ridiculing them. I would not be judging them. But, like I say, we need to study so we will know how to properly apply Scripture.
Sure. 2 movies that, I don't go off on 2 more hour rabbit trail here, we won't do that, but if people watch the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
The Yellow Brick Road.
That's amazing, because that's all full of symbolism. You know?
They spelled out the whole plan. The yellow brick road is the money. You follow the money trail.
Yes, yes.
And the straw man has no brain.
And that came out like in 1938. The U.S. was bankrupted in 1933. You know, bankruptcy is like a legal proceeding, and Dorothy was told if she didn't hand over that dog Toto, right, and this lawsuit was going to be filed, it was going to take the whole farm, and you know, then when she woke up, we're not in Kansas anymore. Well, hello, state of Kansas in Kansas, you know, there was a fiction, right? So she was now in this fictional.
Went from the reality to the fiction across that mirror.
The Wizard's amazing. They get to the end, they're looking for this great Oz, and all of a sudden they find out who he really is.
A little man behind the curtain.
Tiny little, yeah.
Pay
no attention to that little man behind the curtain.
Right, right.
And it's just like what's talked about in Scripture here in Isaiah 14, and where you start reading the fall of Lucifer. And it talks about, here at verse 16, it says, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners?
This is the guy who did it.
Is this the great wizard?
Satan's going to be a little guy. We're all going to see Jesus just toss him into hell for 1,000 years.
It's amazing, you know. Yeah. It's now I look at him completely different. Not as a powerful guy. He's this tiny little dweeb that you could probably flick out of your life. But the only thing he's got going for himself is deception.
Yeah.
And he appears to be very powerful. He appears to, and it is an incredible deception.
Yeah, which is exactly what The Wizard of Oz was.
Exactly.
The other movie is The Matrix. These are heathen movies,
right?
Put out, and some bad language and all this kind of stuff. But the concept they're getting across is the same thing about the two different worlds.
Yes, that's right. Now, you know, it's amazing. A lot of people don't understand why we teach art to children in school, and why schools have always had art in there. And that's very simply because art, you look at art and you see a cross-section of where your society is at that point in time. If you look at art from the 16th century or look at art during the Dark Ages, you know, there wasn't a lot of art going on then. But then you look at the Renaissance and all this stuff, and you can get a good cross-section. Kevorkian, in his paintings, you know, he's got pictures of guys just clawing and scraping down into like this pit, fighting for their life, and you look at his paintings and you can tell what he's like, right? And same thing with art. You know, movies are just another, you know, form of art, and you look at a movie and you can basically see where your society is by looking at that art. And as our society's gone down the tubes, you can see that depicted in the movies of that day. And same thing with Wizard of Oz. You know, earlier I was talking about notice and grace, and I think this is one way that we are given notice what's happened to us. It's interesting, in the Wizard of Oz, that was first written in a book called The Emerald City. And Dorothy's slippers were silver. But when they made the movie, they switched it to ruby because they figured that with so much symbolism, people would have easily realized what had happened to them going through the Great Depression.
They took their silver away.
Exactly. So they changed it from silver slippers to ruby slippers, and it was the silver slippers following the golden road back, and that was how Dorothy could actually get from down here, the fictional state, back up to the real Kansas, follow the gold, find out what the bankers did to the country, and there was your answer. So Matrix, again, a lot of symbolism, and I can see how we've all been sucked into the fiction. The Matrix is a fiction, and we got the web, the internet, and there's a lot of symbolism going on there, and ultimately there's a question that talks about, do you want the red pill or the blue pill? If you take the blue pill, you won't have any knowledge of the Matrix, how it works, or the red pill, you can go and live your life, you have knowledge of the Matrix, and you can try and make the appropriate changes for good. I want the red pill.
Some people don't want to know. They prefer ignorance. Ignorance is bliss.